Hello, everybody. One of the questions that I've been asked quite frequently recently is about the icon behind me that I use for the podcast. If you've listened to the podcast in audio format on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, whatever, you would know from episode 1 sort of why I use this image and what the podcast is about. Now, this image, this icon behind me, is emblematic not just of the podcast, but sort of what forms me, both academically, religiously, culturally, etc. And it brings together 3 major areas of my interests: the ancient Near East, ancient Mediterranean world, and early Christian world. This hand that you see cascading down is a hand of protection. You could see it referred to as the Kef Maryam, the hand of Mary, but really its understanding goes back much earlier and probably to ancient Mesopotamia, where it could have been understood as the hand of Ishtar. Whatever the case may be, it is a hand that is reaching down and seems to be protective. And in fact, in the center of the hand, I have a Sumerian eye, this lapis lazuli eye. And this eye is a protective eye. So it's an apotropaic in a sense. The eye is used to ward off wickedness, to ward off evil, in particular the evil eye. And so here we have an eye that's quite often emblematic of the divine. And in fact, this is not something that's limited to Eastern Christianity or early Christianity. The idea of the eye as a symbol of the divine goes back to the ancient world, the Egyptian wedget, for example, in addition to the way it's used to showcase the divine in, let's say, Christian iconography of the Mediterranean world. So this image was really interesting for me for a number of reasons, like I've just described, but the impulse to use it actually came from my brother. Well, why would my brother have any influence on using this image, for me, podcast, for whatever? Well, I can ask another question. What do my brother and George Costanza have in common? They're both hand models. So it was about a decade ago, my brother did a campaign for Pioneer, and his hand was featured, and in the center of his hand is this eye. And so I thought, wow, that's a really cool image that I can use for a podcast that kind of showcases how I'm formed, the things I engage with, what interests me, and what have you. So let's take a look at it, actually.
Introducing the revolutionary curl.
So you can see, I probably couldn't just lift that and use it as the image for my podcast, but, I have something similar and maybe something a little more unique to me in my experience. And I call it the Mouseion because this podcast should be a place that is inspirational, a place of the muses, right? You think of a museum as we use it in English. I'm just using the Greek version of it because it sounds a little fancier, a little more exotic. If I called it the museum, who cares? What are you showing in your museum? And really, I want to bring the idea of, the interaction or the experience of inspiration, of learning, of acquiring new ideas and things. And hopefully, for those of you who've been viewing or listening to the podcast, you've learned something. And hopefully it's something fascinating. If nothing else, it's fascinating for me, and that's enough. Lastly, you may notice this horn that goes off whenever you hear the podcast start. Now, it is a horn. People have asked, well, what's that sound? Is it a cow? Is it something far more sinister? No, it is neither a cow nor something sinister. But I'm not going to tell you what it is just yet. I may release it on Substack or some other, textual thing online. Maybe I'll do a video for it later. But I kind of want someone to figure it out. right? Because it's the last piece of the puzzle for unpacking who I am and what I'm trying to do online. I don't know, I think it's cool, but because I know what it is for a lot of people out there, it may just sound like an obnoxious noise. And you know what? That's okay. At least now you have an idea of what I'm doing and why. You can take an image like this, you can see how it's utilized over time across different cultures, what it means to different people, and how even an image like this, let's say, could be baptized into Christian thinking, right? Where if the hand of Mary is in one position, the divine is in the center here, it's not too different than some of the iconography we see of the incarnation, let's say, or Mary, with the Christ child on her lap, right? So there's a lot of interesting things going on. If you have further questions or you wish to comment, please do so. Subscribe, like. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this explanation and that it was some kind of benefit to you. And with that, I will just leave you with this.